Hello, what is up, bestie? I am so glad you had the time to chat and or listen today. And yeah, I'm just really hoping that this finds you in a cozy, warm, or cool a place of ease, a place of rest and comfort. And if not, you know, I know that you're doing your best. And so I'm here to remind you that you're doing your best and there's no one like you, and there's no one who could do it like you. You are rare, you're beautiful, and you are worthy of anything that you desire, need, big or small. Shoot for the stars. Why not? And yeah, so I'll open with that. And I I really hope I get to do these like really regularly. We'll see what regularly means. I'm going to challenge myself to um do one of these little chats um maybe once a week starting out and go from there, and then also see what other platforms online I end up finding you at, and saying hello and dropping my hot takes and really that juicy gossip. And um I've always got a hot take for you. um so yeah, I want to be able to drop drop some knowledge, drop the wisdom, give great advice, unsolicited advice, solicited advice, and fun facts, um fake fun facts, false facts, um and also just random anythings. And so this will be a collection, uh, a cluster caboodle of anything I'm thinking and feeling in order to help us process together, because we're in this together, right? We're all in this together. You know it. You know it. I'm gonna go there. High School Musical. We're all in this together. Great choreo in that finale, I gotta tell you. Um, I have some tarot and oracle cards with me. And so I might pull some. But yeah, I really wanted to get on and really come from that place of like remembering who we are, remembering that unlearning is harder than learning, remembering that deprogramming the schemas and BS that was programmed and brainwashed into us growing up, um, when we were kids, when we were in school, if we had, traumatic um, parental figures or lack of, or otherwise traumatic households, the media, pop culture, movies and TV, So much has influenced us, the news, so much continues to influence us today, but especially growing up and speaking as a millennial on the cusp of a millennial and Gen Z, also as a first generation American, also, right, the child of immigrants who also got screwed over heavily by the country in various ways. Like, I have seen a lot, been through a lot, and so I think it's really important for someone like me to be able to tell other people, oh, wait, but it does get better. And then it gets hard again. And then it gets even harder. And then you think it can't get any harder, and it does. And then after some period of time, it does feel better again. And so life, it feels and is more episodic, more fluid and ambiguous and messy, and healing isn't linear, and remembering who we are takes time, and there's a reason why, like, most of us go to therapy regularly and not just for a short period of time and then that's it. It's like we're over, like, and we're stuck in therapy forever. Because many of us, and also, like, even my parents who are boomers, right, on every generation before that, just repressed our feelings, push our feelings, what we were genuinely feeling, and we were genuinely wanted to say and speak up about what our true values were, even if it went against, especially if it went against the grain, especially if it went against any zeitgeist, any conventional norm, any expectation of these authority or parental figures of our lives, of these government officials. Some of it, had high stakes. So, especially for even folks who lived in countries with dictatorships or really intense, politicians and governments, they had, like, literally no choice but to not talk. Not and some people, like, literally all they have is their home and what happens in their home, and if they're the parental figure of that home, how they're able to shape it and kind of be in charge, um, and how they want to, raise the kids in that home, and that, and or their faith, their religion, their spirituality, song, dance, art, um, but sometimes not even that. So, right, we're thinking a lot about, especially, from folks of marginalized identities and groups, having to, like, prove that we're human, that we're that we're worthy of rights, that we're worthy of humanity, that we're worthy of autonomy, self-determination, really basic stuff, right? And then on top of that, right, you have the fact that when we were growing up, there was still, like, outdated stuff in textbooks where they were saying, Christopher Columbus discovered um America, and also completely erased, like, indigenous, First Nation, Native American folks um from history books, like, the even civil rights movement completely downplayed. There was very little on the activism of other groups, um, such as Asian American activists who engaged with Yellow Peril, um, and things like internment camps that happened in the United States with Japanese Americans, especially. Um, so there's so much that we learned incorrectly or we didn't learn at all. I also grew up in the South, so I'm coming from a place of also like it's actually quite conservative, even though it feels like, oh, everything has all this like sexy energy because of food is seasoned. Just because the food is seasoned doesn't mean people are woke, okay? Doesn't mean it's safe for queer and trans people, fat people, disabled people. In fact, it was not. And from a very young age, we grew up where we were told to be like quiet, sit still, like know your place. And it was kind of hard to learn to be smaller and then eventually became right natural to be kind of smaller in some circumstances, and then in some circumstances we get carried away and get in trouble for talking in class or talking quote unquote out of turn or quote unquote talking back, all of this respectability politics that's completely culturally dependent and subjective, and also it's like one person's intention and then how the other person receives it can be different. And if the person on the receiving end has the power in the dynamic, whether it's because they're older or otherwise, that just creates so much yeah, complex PTSD basically, right? So a lot of us have that complex PTSD of like having to freeze, flight, fawn. What's the other one? Fight, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? So we're either running away, hiding, frozen, deer in the headlights, like indecisive, don't know what to do, or people pleasing, saying yes when you really mean no, um, doing things, it even in advance to protect ourselves, right? And like I know I personally, to take it to more of an individual place, had to like blossom into who I am, and I'm still learning and growing, and every day I'm still like, who am I though? I still am like, wait, is that who I am? Or is that who I think I am? Is that who I was raised to be? And am I fulfilling it? Do I like how I'm fulfilling it? And is that why I'm identifying with it? Or does this have nothing to do with me? And should I just put it in the scrap pile? Reuse, recycle, or, and maybe someone else will reuse it. Um, but thinking about like what, not just what doesn't serve us, But thinking about like the full capacity of that idea of taking away, throwing away what doesn't serve us because it's not aligned with our values, what we truly believe in to our core. Like, okay, my parents aren't around, my grandparents aren't around, my friends aren't around, my fake friends aren't around, my colleagues, my boss isn't around, my pets aren't around, my doctor isn't around. Okay, I could say this. Whisper, whisper, here's the truth about what I really think. Like, dear diary, dear, if we could all just be dear diary, and that's truly what I think we all want, and we all truly crave that. And that's something that I think millennials and Gen Zers like really uphold this kind of dear diary energy. And then for older generations, it's just they just kind of phrase it as like free speech or reclaiming it, and they kind of take it in a fascist way. I don't think they mean to, though. I honestly don't think they mean to. But then this is why Trump was elected twice, right? Like it's truly because folks just want to be able, like, not this is not only the reason, but I think a big part of these different phenomena are because people just want to live their authentic truths, their authentic selves. And for so long, it's been stripped away from many of us, or for some reason, even Elon Musk, like, was not born into, like, as what he is known today, so colloquially, as a household rich name, right? It's like, oh, it's that rich guy. And now he will perpetually be known as that rich guy that owns so many things, right? But didn't start out that way. And it's like, regardless of what you think about folks, and of course, there are people who are born into privilege in certain circumstances and they continue to ride that out their whole lives. But then they still have to go through other things like discovering like their identity and their like different orientations and attractions towards people and self-image things. They're still faced with the media. They're still faced with pop culture and politics and all of these things, right? They still have to figure out, am I going to play the game of what everyone else is doing, or am I going to go against the grain? Just because they have the money to do something, they even then having the money to do whatever they want may even make them more flustered or more confused, because then they really have too many options. That's like, what card is that in it's like Seven of Cups, I think, in tarot, where it's like seven cups full of different things, and they're all, and then the seventh one is like overflowing and topple over, um, because there's just like so many options, so many things to choose from, and it's like really messy, um, emotionally. Um, so I don't want to get too off track, but anyway, um, I come on here to say that, I've been through a lot. I would say through hell and back. I've hit rock bottom multiple times. I've had so many periods where I've been like, this is the worst pain I've ever felt. No, this is the worst pain. No, this is the worst. I've had so many different chronic illness diagnoses, and feeling the experience, the symptoms of them are, is the real challenge, not just getting the diagnoses, right? But dealing with the gaslighting of the doctors is also not fun. I've had to grow into myself and also come up in a world where I'm learning about who I am, and I'm trying to have fun with it. But then the world is denying me myself and or my rights, and then I'm also being described as a statistic, as a number, rather than a person. And so we have all of this BS that's thrown at us. And it has always been there. We were literally from the moment we're born, boom, they gender us based on our genitalia. They like it's over. Like, right? Like the minute like we're born, the second we're born, like it's like the bliss we had as a soul, as a light being, just chilling, thinking about our soul contracts, like, wow, how much magic I'm going to make in life, or, oh, I'm going to be so fulfilled, or I'm going to, learn so much, or whatever it was that we wanted to do or redo or work on in our lifetime, right, as a soul. Um, and thinking about that, right? Chilling in the womb, and then boom, it's like that expression. I'm pretty sure this is the expression where like the floor, like it like is the rug is like pulled from under you, so like you trip, you fall. um Kind of this idea of like you're on stable ground and then there is no ground anymore, and then you're just like falling, and then you're still falling, right? It's like 3 decades later, and and I'm getting the song, 'cause I'm free falling on. Does it go all in, all in? I don't know if it does that, but I want to do that when I sing it. Um, yeah, so it's like it's funny because life it feels like Sisyphus. Man, this is like way too many like metaphors and like wordplay things, but that I'm not saying correctly. But like Sisyphus with the boulder up the hill, like it's like, oh my gosh, life is hard. Life is hard. It continues to be hard. And even if like the boulder rolls down, or oh, there's a little dust on it today. Oh, there's pollen in the air today. Or oh, it smells like lavender. Maybe I could really do it this time. You're always back to square one, or it's always feeling like that. But recently I was in a reading where the reader said, you're not starting from scratch. You've collected what you've already experienced and you've already learned. So it's just like a beginner's mind thing. And then recently I was listening to another speaker talk about remembering ourselves, and it's like an act of remembering and reminding yourself who you are, what you believe in, what you value. Because if not, if all we have is our mind, our ego, which has been programmed by society, by all of the external authority, external critics, then that's all we have. And that is what makes us really depressed. That's what makes us feel really anxious. That makes us feel like we're not worthy, we're not good enough, we're not deserving, even when we actually are, right? So it's all about listening to our hearts, to our intuition from within, and sometimes journaling it out, like actually writing that stuff down for real, or having conversations with friends, right? Like, what do I really believe in? What do I really value? Like, let's take me, let's take, a few minutes and figure out, like, you know, or maybe not even a few minutes, but even if you spend a few minutes a day or a couple minutes a week and you journal or write for a few minutes and just think about a list of what you're grateful for, or things you really do enjoy in life, things that don't totally suck, and slowly, if you have to slowly work towards getting there. And for me, like, I have been fortunate enough to let myself go through really slow periods and have had these really slow states of hermit mode where I feel like I'm not doing anything or getting anything done. All I'm doing is watching TV, and then I'm like binge watching shows and on to the next, on to the next. And I'm sleeping all day, or I'm quote unquote wasting all this time. But all of these ideas and narratives are just what other people or society is telling me, right? What's really happening internally is my body clock is being reset. I'm mentally getting rest from the burnout and fatigue my mind and body has been through previous weeks and days. Like, it's not everything is black and white, and not everything that we're told by outside forces is bad or evil. And almost anything can be subjective. And if you really curious about that stuff, you can take a philosophy class or a class, class in ethics or philosophy that goes on and on about, like, people, philosophers and theologists who have just pondered and written about how humans can really get so caught up in our own minds, our own egos, and then it's just so existentialist from there. Because then we're just spiraling, and losing our marbles. And then we maybe decide to be a nihilist, or decide to be an optimist after that. Or we decide to just go with the flow, or decide to just say what everyone else says. Decide to just be amicable, agreeable. Um, but when we are going against what we truly want, or what truly feels good, or what we would love to do, or what inspires us, or even when we go against our own boundaries in big and small ways, it all adds up. And and then who's paying the consequence? We are, right? And so I was recently watching Love is Blind. I can't remember what season, but whenever I'm recording this, it's the most recent season that is out. And there's this one of the folks on there was talking about, no, I won't spoil it with the name, but they were just talking about how they self-sabotage a lot. And I was like, oh, I always heard that term. I never applied it to myself, but I always call myself a bully. Like, I bully myself a lot. And it's like I have replaced the bullies that have bullied me throughout my life, directly and indirectly. The strangers, people who knew me, people who didn't know me, the authority figures, and people in power dynamics, family, teachers, doctors, police, politicians, news, journalists, etc., even therapists, right? Um, and then I turn that on myself, and then no one's around, like I'm living alone, and even my cat is not judging me. Like I am the only one casting the judgment onto myself, casting the BS on myself, and then I feel bad, and then I also have to jump in and then take care of the me that feels bad. And that's a whole other thing in therapy and psychology. If you're interested in that, that's what they call the parts or the family system, um, where you kind of have to um, take care of yourself in moments where you're like actually where you're activated, but also could be activating yourself. And that's how, at least for me, like really hits home. Um, because I'm often activating myself and then also have to deal with the fallout of it. Um, and so we're all a work in progress is what I'll say. Um, and that's okay, right? But anyway, I've been having really rough year, but also a rough few months, and then a rough few weeks, and then I'll have like one okay day, and then it's like feeling really awful, and then I'm like, how can I feel this awful when I felt so good, not too long ago, or I felt like I could really push past this. And then I realized, well, maybe I'm consuming too much media. Maybe I'm not, my my consumption is not of the good stuff. I'm not nourishing my soul, my mind, my heart in the way that would bring me to alignment, that would bring me to feeling better, to feeling better about myself, more in love with myself, to feeling like I am enough, I am worthy. And so I'm here to say we all are. And I definitely had to use the bathroom, so you probably heard the recording um message because I forgot to turn off my mic before hitting the pause record button, but it's all good. It's real over here. Um, anyway, so I think I made all my points I was gonna make today, but Worthy by Megan the Stallion is the theme song for the week. So hopefully you can listen to that song wherever you're hearing this. And yeah, I'm gonna pull some cards for the collective. Any folks who may listen to this. Whoa, really bad at shuffling today. All right. Angels, ancestors, spirit guides of benevolence and at least neutrally, kinda in our best interest. What would you like us to know and think about? going into this week. We had a full moon in Cancer. Was it Cancer? I think so. Yesterday, last night. It's technically still under it. Okay. Two cards. Ooh, the Magician in reverse. And Temperance. Yeah. Really all about that nurturing of the self, but also like blossoming. I have this deck that's of house plants, and the Temperance card, it's this beautiful, isn't it Montessera? I'm not sure what plant it is, but it's beautiful, it's tall, it's luscious, it's got all the many leaves, and it's being watered by a nice big water jug, really getting in that full pot. Um, the Magician is a really exotic plant. Not sure what plant that is. I do not have this deck memorized by the type of plants that are on the decks if they don't say what kind they are. But if you'd like to know, you can always find a way to reach beyond the ethers and ask me. Or just ask me what deck it is and whatnot. We can't do there. The sun card in reverse. I pulled the sun card for myself. Maybe we won't read reversal today. Um, the Magician, the Sun, because I pulled the Sun earlier for myself today as well. So that's always fun. Oh, and the Moon. The Moon also came out for me as well. So um you're all of I tend to read when I read for do collective readings. There are of course people who are kind of, my soul tribe, people are connected to me on the same wavelength, same vibe, same energy, um, which we love. Um, love that. Yeah, the moon. To get the sun and the moon is really beautiful. Um, and the cards are even more gorgeous. Um, yeah. Well, what can I say? So the sun that's right thinking about that. I mean, that goes to that authenticity, that truth, that inner child, playful, jovial, dare I say, flamboyant energy, that energy of, here comes the sun, do 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 do. What if, if the song was sung like that, or Sheryl Crow's one is like dun, 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 dun. How does that song go? I'm gonna walk on is it Walk on the Sun? I'm gonna tell everyone to da, 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 you know, it's it's also like I'm walking on sunshine. I'm not feeling that intensely. But so it's like I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa. It's like I'm feeling where it's not, because remember it came out in reverse initially, right? So I'm feeling like, and then the moon card also came out, right? So to have them both is it, I remember someone told me once it was it. what is it? The moon itself has no light, right? The moon is illuminated by the sun, right? And so when you look up at the sky and you're like, oh, the moon, it's so bright. It's actually the sun's light being like reflected or refracting like on the moon, off of the moon, right? So it's actually like, oh, look at the sun light on the moon, an empty crater, dark crater, right? But there's also that balance, right? Because you're thinking of daytime, nighttime. I personally have been struggling with like a sleep schedule. So, for anyone who is struggling with being in the northern hemisphere and having winter barometric shifts, with the temperature pressures, with the rain or cold, um, anything like that, um, and sleeping with daylight savings, or depending on your time zone, maybe it's majority dark. Maybe, most of the days or hours in a day. Um, and so there are many ways to, take this how you will. Um, but there's definitely that duality there, of course. That goes without saying. Wow, and we get this beautiful card of the star. And I was gonna say this earlier because it kept coming up in readings I was watching, like, oh, you're the star. The reader was like, I'm talking to a star. I'm talking to stars, like you are stars. And like addressing the audience. And so it's just funny that I pulled the star card. I pulled the star card a few days ago, I believe, as well, in another deck. But it's really beautiful, like fancy cactus on a black background in this deck. Um, it's also like it's a cactus with a flower on it, which makes it really beautiful. And we have Queen of Cacti, which is Queen of Swords, um, on the bottom of the deck, and that would be um the equivalent of hearts of not hearts of uh air. So Queen of Swords, Queen of Cacti, Queen of Air. So being that baddie, that boss bitch of your own thoughts. And this whoa, and this is funny getting this. But notice how it's not like it could be the ace, it could be the king, right? Like it um but it's and or it could be, another card that would amp this up even more. Not that the queen isn't pretty high, it's high up there, right? Like we have these barriers up. Like we've learned lessons. We're very self-aware people, right? Like we've learned the lessons, we've been through the lessons. Okay, they didn't have to be lessons, but they were, and we learned from them, and they were hard. Okay, moving on. But we can't move on, and that's why we're queen of swords, queen of cacti, and not king. That would be that, or even ace, where it's this full um this full vibrancy or fluency, um this full fullness of mastership. um So, there's work to do, but acknowledging it. But the important part that I want to iterate for myself and for you, bestie, is the remembering, right? Is the okay, but let me come back to myself. Let me come back to, okay, but I don't actually believe that. Or, you know what? Why do I feel some type of way right now? Like, is it my phone? Let me not look at my phone for the first like hour and a half of the morning when I wake up. Or, let me, you know, read like even 2 pages of a book of poems that I really like, before going to bed, something that puts my mind at ease so I have peaceful dreams at night. Let me take time to just be with my pet, stare at my pet, take pictures of my pet. Um, you know, h- Thinking about how can we incorporate self-care more into our lives and have that mesh with the spiritual wellness, mesh with the mental health wellness, right? And, physical, everything else that comes with wellness. We can only do so much. There are like 7, 8 dimensions of wellness, but however many you can manage, and sometimes like the self-care stuff is just like, okay, I read a poem today, and like that made me feel nice, and I reflected on how it made me feel. I wrote it down, you know, and like that actually, like now that I say that out loud, I'm like, I should try that. Um, but I'm always the one with the great advice and never taking myself up on it. But I hope you take me up on my advice. No, I'm actually gonna try to do these things because I'm still unemployed after many months, and I want to start taking advantage of the fact that I have all this free time on my hands because it was making me lose my marbles. Like, wow, this is too much time. But now I'm like thinking, but everybody else who has a job that's like 40 hours or more a week says they don't have enough time or they regret not that they don't have enough time. And so why not be appreciative of the fact that I have the luxury of time to learn things about myself, to learn anything I want, to discover things, to pig out, to bed rot, to do whatever my heart pleases, um, including organizing my apartment, decorating, and getting into some hobbies that I wish I, did more. And then, of course, I have a million art projects that are like in buffer mode that I would love to start putting some energy towards, even though I'm not getting paid technically to make them. That might even be better. And so I really want us all to try to think of ways we can make ourselves feel good amongst the chaos, amongst the fire and storm and intensity of the world. 'Cause the world is well, my world's on fire. How about yours? That's the way I like it, and I never get bored. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Hey now, you're an all-star. Did I say that in the right order? All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. Let's see, we've got jeweled web, connectivity, some oracle cards here. Straddling worlds, wandering between realms. Man, that was difficult to say. Um, let's pull a couple more cards from this deck, Spirit. Oh, skywriting. Oh, I've never seen this card in this deck. The Fates. Ooh, the Fates. But also skywriting. Those are like different things to me, but I'll see what comes up when I feel that card a little bit more. Let's see, one more card. So this is a shaman's dream oracle deck. Stars in the sky, limitless possibility. So we got card 51 and 52. So that's showing progression. That's showing momentum. We have skywriting. Card 49. I'm like trying to do the math of 9 plus 4, 13 back to 4. Very spiritually protected number. Makes sense then that it's the fates. The fates are from Greek mythology. They're the three, if you know the movie Hercules, the Disney animated Hercules, they're in that. They're also in the Netflix series Chaos, which is a story about Oedipus and Eurydice. Um, and the Fates were in that as well. I love the way they pictured them all as like gender expansive. As at least that's how I envisioned them, and it was like so. I was like, wow, they're so cool, and they're so not cisgender, which I love. Um, like they were like too cool for gender, you know what I mean? But yeah, skywriting to me this is like look up at the sky and there are like messages. You know when like planes will leave messages or like clouds, the shapes of clouds will have um they'll that's it. Clouds will have shapes. And then jeweled web connectivity, that is how people when I say like the collective, there's like folks who are connected in like could be across generations, across different countries and continents, across identities, across paths. They may not necessarily even think exactly the same way, talk the same way, but they feel very similarly. Um, they may even have like different views or values, but there's certain things where that they resonate with or that they connect on um and then of course if you're thinking about astrology, different people who have similar astrological placements can experience certain things during certain times, during the same time of year, same time of the month. You know, if it's a full moon in Cancer, then the cancers, the people with cancers Cancer sign, moon cancer, moon and cancer. It's hard to say. Um, or sun in cancer, or right, or even rising cancer might, take things um, more intensely than folks who don't have any significant cancer placements. But you never know, right? Because if something needs to surface and come up for folks, it will. And so that's where things like the collective and different collectives and soul tribes can really find people where they're at. Um, but don't necessarily, hold yourself to that, and don't think, oh, just because someone says something that really resonates with you one day, everything that they'll ever say is going to be music to your ears and going to be perfect for you. Because I've heard quote unquote problematic people or public figures say things or do things that um I would stand behind, and I would also say that that's a value of mine, but I wouldn't like publicly necessarily endorse those people because of other things that they have done based on actions or other things that they would say, because I think that isn't aligned for me. Um, so yeah, I can't think of any examples right now, but I don't want to get into that. Let me read, let's see, a couple more cards. Deep quiet. Meditation and stillness. Yeah, I'm trying to do this more, like stop looking at my phone, stop like always needing to watch something, to spend the day, like I can waste time or spend time, with the days and the hours just passing by, and not have to be visually oriented or listening to something. I can just kind of be with myself and kind of see what else I can get into trouble with, which is fun and exciting. And wow, I cannot make this up. I Bottom of the deck is First Breath, card 21, Beginner's Mind. I was literally talking about, I don't know, I don't know if I mentioned the phrase beginner's mind in this recording yet, but I was definitely thinking about it, because I was thinking, oh, that's the thing about the remembering, is you kind of have to come back to yourself with a fresh slate, but it's not fresh because you've already experienced things, you've already learned things, you've had the introspection, you've had the self-awareness, you've had the therapy, you've had maybe the hospitalizations, you've had the experiences, right, to teach you the things, you've had the lessons that didn't need to be lessons that taught you things, you have also learned more formally, etc. But the thing is, when we get caught up in the mind, we're like, well, we already know how to do that. But what if you were to approach it as if you didn't already know? So that's what the phrase beginner's mind is, and that kind of comes back to the sun card, and having that childlike energy, having that um child approach, um and joyful approach to life, this outlook that shines really bright, with the moon card, also thinking that illuminating what's in the shadows, illuminating what is in the dark. For me also, when I think about the moon and I think about shadow work, and I think about the inner child is the wounded child who is the shadow self that has not yet been healed or tended to or illuminated on, or is a little bit of light that's stuck in the dark, stuck in the shadows, but is completely misunderstood and can easily turn into a gray shadow, if we continue to leave them behind. And so we want to remember that they're there. um, but this idea of even like waking up every day, like I remember in I don't know if it was high school or middle school, but I grew up in a theater kid, and we go to theater competitions, and the teachers always thought they were the most profound speakers in the room, and they would say things. And so one of them would say, well, every day is improv. You're improvising every day. And I remember at the time it blew my mind because I was like, everybody hates improv, and yet we're actually always doing it. We're all improvising. Not all necessarily, because you can, of course, have memorized scripts that you follow, social scripts and cues, or you can do the same thing every day if you like routine or need routine. Um, but you can also approach every day as if it's a brand new day, and do things completely different that you didn't do the day before. There's a lot of novelty in that. There's a lot of newness in that. So beginner's mind, you can take it in that way. And if you have to have a schedule and keep things the same all the time, think about like one thing, small thing in your day you can approach differently, even if that's like what you eat. Sometimes like a meal people have more control over, or you take a slightly longer route to work or on a commute somewhere, or um, instead of making like tea or coffee at home, you decide to get it at a fancy shop and sit down and read a book there, or the reverse. Um, Instead of, working at home on your laptop, maybe you go to the library or a coffee shop and work there. Um, there's so much to think about and explore when it comes to um, beginner's mind and that concept. I think it's, yeah, a really important one. That's wild that that came out. Let's see, any more cards from this deck? Whale song resonating. I This morning I got communication. Yeah, I seeing it. I'm looking at it right now. It's in from a different deck, and it's also a whale on it. And it says communication. And this card says 61 whale song resonating. Um so whales, are known not just for those sounds that um we don't understand and can't necessarily hear all of, but also like it's a whales communicate in such a intricate and intimate and unique way. I haven't read all the whale studies, but it's one of the things on my invisible bucket list of things I want to research and do a rabbit hole deep dive into one day. Um, all right, and then I have a funny deck um that takes no prisoners. So we'll see what this deck says, if there's any it just cuts straight through the BS. So we'll see what it says. It says that project, that person, that idea is waiting. Get after that shit. The world has your back. Awesome. The world has your back. That thing that you want is waiting for you. That thing that you've been putting off, It's like, go for it. Do it. Like, embrace the bravery, take the risk it for the biscuit, you know? Also seeing stop obsessing. You are not the fucking center of the universe. We're also all connected and we're also all like the universe. Um, so that, but that card is like, that card, it's like, I had to talk deeper to this card. It's like you're not the center of the universe. But that's because we're all a part of it, right? It's like it's not just about you, and yet like all of our experiences are influencing each other's, and all of our experiences are influencing each other. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. See what else I pull. I'm like, okay, I understand that card, but I can't explain it further for some reason. Um, but if I need to, hopefully it'll come to me. This one says, it's not everyone else's fault. It's yours. You're a grown ass adult. Stop blaming others for your shit. So this one is like, I remember the like, oh, like being your own bully and being that negative Nancy in your own life, right? It's like no one else is bringing this depression upon you. Like you're actually bringing the depression upon yourself, you know, because you're talking down to yourself. But that's because you're letting your mind be true and you think that what you think is is really how you feel and what is true. But what you think is not how you feel, and it's not true, and it's not real because it's the programming, right? It's the programming. It's not us. Let's see. One more card from this deck, maybe. Be fucking grateful. Shit could be so much worse. That's true. I know that's true for me. It's hard to remember, but um yeah, it is true also. So I hope this helps, and it was so lovely catching up with you, and just remember to take it easy and just know that I love you and you will always have a friend in me. All right. Take care, y'all. Peace and light. Bye bye.